Good afternoon. I'm Steve McClafferty here at the Vermont Veterans Home. I have the distinct pleasure and honor to interview here Mr. Arthur Bradway, who was in the United States Navy. Mr. Bradway, welcome on board, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Going to start off, where were you born?
I was born in Rutland, Vermont, actually.
Ah, not far from here.
No,
Okay.
And-
On the farm or in the hospital?
in the hospital.
Okay.
And then I was put up for adoption
Oh.
and ended up in Heartland, Vermont, where I was adopted. And then my folks moved from Heartland to Windsor.
Okay. Wow.
And that was I was like 4 years old at that point. And then the rest of my time until I graduated high school was in Windsor.
Ah. Did you do any sports in high school?
Yep, I was track, cross country, and ski team.
Downhill ski, or did you do the ski jump?
Downhill.
Oh, okay.
I tried one time with a jump, decided that wasn't for me.
Yeah. What's the place over in Brattleboro? The ski jump over there. I forget the name of it. But
I don't.
it's like every February, and you have to be really, I don't know what the right word is, but really have to really love ski jumping in order to do that. So how do you do in cross country and track?
Cross country, I was state champ in 1961.
Mhm.
And led my team to a state championship. And that's the only one Windsor's ever had.
The first and the last, or not the
First
first
and
and
the
the last.
last.
Well, geez, that's a
So,
great honor.
well, I think so.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, just something like that, bring in your team, and so after high school,
After high school, I was out for about a month
Mhm.
when I joined the Navy.
Ah,
We had several of us from Windsor and that area that all, through the recruiter, all joined at the same time because they were starting a Vermont company at boot camp.
okay. So you enlisted in that, you weren't drafted.
Right,
Okay.
I enlisted.
Mhm. Yeah, you and your buddies.
Yeah,
Ah,
so it was interesting. We've kept in touch. Well,
Hmm.
two of us have kept in touch. Two have passed away. I hate to say that.
no, but hey, close friends, and I understand that.
Yeah.
So where did you do basic at?
I did basic at Great Lakes,
Okay.
and then from there, because of my cross country,
Hmm.
ended up on a Navy team, and went to Norfolk, Virginia to train for that. And when I was in Norfolk, I was with everybody else on the team was SEALs.
Ah.
And I didn't measure up. Bottom line, I could not do everything they did
Yeah.
in a timely manner.
Yep, that's a really with any elite. My cousin is a SEAL, so I can understand that.
Yeah. Well, now I understand it. At the time, I was very frustrated because I couldn't do it. But
So, what was the first ship you were on?
well, I went to a squadron
Okay.
out of Sanford, Florida. It was a heavy attack squadron with a A3 Sky Warrior, and we went aboard the Franklin D. Roosevelt CB-42, which is no longer in commission. But we went there, and then from there I went to another squadron in Sanford, RVAH-5, with the RA-5C Vigilantes. And once I got into that, that's where I stayed for the next 15 years.
Jeez.
in the Vidgies.
Mm-hmm.
Not all. Sanford closed. We went to Albany, Georgia.
Yeah.
From Albany, Georgia, we closed and went to Key West, Florida.
Ah.
So I had some pretty choice duty
Yeah.
along the way.
Ah. Wow.
And then I got sent out to San Diego to work with the F-14 Tire Project, which was more aerial reconnaissance, and ended up going from there to the Kitty Hawk was my final destination.
Wow.
And then I spent 4 years on the Kitty Hawk before I
Jeez.
retired.
Wow. That was, and you retired in 1985.
85.
I'm just trying to think. Back during the Apollo series, was it the Kitty Hawk pick up some of the Gemini, Mercury, Apollo?
I think, no, it was the Midway, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And I was on the East Coast
Yep.
at
Okay.
that point with the vigilantes with the photo reconnaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I went through photo school,
Mm-hmm.
got designated as a photographer, and then went to RVAH, which was reconnaissance attack. And when I got there, it was a photo system. So I ended up going to a couple of different schools for the specific cameras, and ended up doing camera maintenance and repair, as well as flight deck, changing the film and all of that stuff. And we did that. I went to the Mediterranean several times. I was on the Kennedy, I was on the Nimitz, I was on the Forrestal, I was on the Saratoga.
Ah.
A variety.
Yeah, I was on Big John twice when it came into Boston Harbor
Oh,
years ago. You know, the one and only time I was on an aircraft carrier. So,
they're big.
yes, they are big. In fact, we had have a former resident here who designed the propulsion system for the new class of aircraft carriers.
Oh,
Yep, the nuclear power, George W. Bush. He was instrumental in designing the propulsion system for that. So,
it's quite a task.
yes, it is. Yeah, just a little piece of land out there for the planes to land on.
Yes, it is. It's a small piece.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the A3s, I flew with them several times off the carrier and landed on the carrier. And you're right, it's a very, very small piece of...
What is that like? I mean, taking off. I mean, you see the movies.
It's just awesome. That's the only way I can describe it. It's you go from 0 to 120 in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And you stop just about as fast.
Yeah, my understanding
So
is...
it's taking off,
Mm-hmm.
very compression.
Mm-hmm.
Landing, it seems like it.
Yeah.
Quite a difference. That's all I can say.
Because you got to come in at landing speed, my understanding.
Yeah, you have to come in. You're at least 120 knots
Mm-hmm.
when you cross the fantail to land.
Yeah.
And you grab that wire, and that wire stops you in 100 feet.
Jeez. Wow. Ah,
So,
wow.
just a little bit of history in there.
Yeah. So what type of photos were these? Reconnaissance, like intelligence pictures?
That's all it was.
Okay.
And over the Mediterranean, they had all sorts of tasking.
Mm-hmm.
In Vietnam, when we flew in Vietnam, it was strictly looking for North Vietnamese trails.
Yeah.
They would go in and fly at night to look. We found out that they were using elephants to transport everything, and they would take them and move them at night.
Huh.
And it was our aircraft that found that.
Jeez.
We had a, I don't have the picture now, I had the picture for a long time, but a SAM missile exploding
Mm-hmm.
that was shot at our airplane that they managed to dodge. Got all kinds of shrapnel and had to make an emergency landing, but they made it back to the base.
Mm.
So,
Wow. I never heard about the elephants.
oh, well, it was probably not a well-known.
Yeah. So now you got to kill me.
Yeah.
Wow. That is very interesting.
But that's how they were moving their supplies.
How long were you over in Vietnam? What was
Uh,
your rotation?
our carrier was over there for 13 months,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
And we were there, Kitty Hawk is one of the ones that participated in the mining of Haiphong Harbor
Mm-hmm.
when they did that with Nixon.
Yeah.
And then they called a halt to that, and then we finally got to come home.
Wow. Yeah,
So.
Glad you made it home, sir.
Well,
Yeah. Wow.
you know, we had a lot of people that didn't, unfortunately.
So you came home, and what did you do when you came home? Did you open up a photography school
No.
or shop, or?
Nope. I got out of the Navy. I had been doing some stuff with networking, and Cold Regions Research Lab in Hanover, New Hampshire was looking for somebody to, as a photographer, they said. So I went and interviewed for that and found out they really needed somebody to do networking, wiring and stuff. And they asked me if I would accept that, which I did. And for the next 7 years, worked at the Cold Regions Lab, installing and maintaining network. And then went as a private contractor, not private contractor, but subcontractor, to a place out of Boston, Mass. that was doing networking. So I went down and did a bunch of stuff at Hewlett Packard
Oh.
in Andover, Mass. And while I was there doing all of that, I received a job offer to do subcontract training. And I was a trainer in the Navy. So I took that job and spent the next almost 20 years traveling the country. I would take somebody develop a software.
Mm-hmm.
They would contact me, I would go in and learn that software and then go around and teach their customers.
Wow.
So I did that for several years, and then went to work for Siemens Corporation
Wow.
as a subcontractor for the Postal Service. And managed to visit post offices in most of the country. So my history is a lot of travel.
Worldwide.
Worldwide and all over the country. I've been to all 50 states,
Oh.
which is, you know, a lot of people can't say that.
Nope. I'm lucky if I've been to maybe a quarter of them.
No, I've been to all 50.
Then which state's your favorite one then?
Well, I settled in Vermont because that's where my folks were,
Okay.
and my wife's folks. My wife was from Windsor, so we went back to Windsor to be close to our folks once I retired. And then shortly after we got back, my dad passed away. But we were already established at that point, so we just stayed right there and
In Windsor.
in Windsor.
Ah,
So that's been, even though I was on the road doing training and everything, that's been our residence for the last 35 years now, 36
Wow.
years.
just a couple of years.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
you-
I've been married for 56.
Oh. Was she your high school sweetheart?
No,
No, okay.
it's funny. She went to high school, same high school, 2 years behind me. I didn't even know her. Because I was running with the track team and all of that, and not getting associated with all the people.
Mm-hmm.
So after I got out of the high school, I went back, I was on leave, and that's when we met. And started going together and ended up getting married, so,
Okay. Did you have any kids?
yeah,
Oh,
2 boys.
okay.
I have one that's in Brownsville, Vermont. Works for Cooper Tire. He's one of their warehouse managers. And then my other son is in Washington, D.C., and he works for an internet security company.
Oh.
So they've done well for
Did
themselves.
well. And any grandkids?
One.
Ah.
So,
And you spoil him or her rotten?
when I got the chance,
Okay.
and actually that's one of the reasons I stopped getting and doing training, is I had missed my children growing up. And when he came along, I wasn't going to
Do it.
do that again. So I ended up in 2000 of just saying, that's it, I gotta stop.
Wow.
So
Well, and, that was good. So you can spoil the grand.
I tried my best.
Yes. Well, that's what grandparents are for.
Oh yeah.
Give them the loud music, fill them
And-
full of
and
ice
he-
cream, and send them home.
He is 23 years old now, going to
Oh.
school.
Oh wow.
So he goes to what, Vermont Technical?
Oh.
No, not Vermont Technical.
University of Vermont.
CCV.
Okay. Yep. Community College of Vermont.
That's it.
Yeah.
Community College of Vermont.
Oh.
I'm a little slow sometimes on that
no.
stuff.
Oh, I am the same way, trying to think of all the little things.
So that's where he goes, and
Oh, good.
I do help spoil him in the essence that if he's taking a course, I normally pay for the course.
Okay.
So he doesn't have to worry about financial.
Ah,
Um,
that's nice. What was your bride's favorite meal that she made for you?
Oh, I had a bunch of them at one time. My favorite one is Chuck Wagon Mac. It's a casserole.
Yeah.
And I got spoiled on that. I could eat that every day. I don't, but I don't even think I've had it since I've been here.
Well, we'll have to tell the cook out there.
Yeah.
Yes, the
Paul.
Paul.
Is
Yep.
that like a barbecue mac and cheese? Is it like a barbecue with meat?
No, it's hamburger and corn and
Yeah.
tomato sauce and
Yeah.
macaroni.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
like goulash, or what I call
Well,
goulash.
yeah, similar to goulash,
Okay.
yes.
And I think I remember watching a movie.
And
It was called Slumgullion from the Irish side, but it's basically the same thing.
and Paul does do goulash.
Yes. Well, he has to take care of his Navy cohorts because he was the cook on the Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes.
So,
He was in the chief's mess,
Yeah, so you gotta, you know,
and I was mess caterer, mess treasurer on the chief's mess
ah,
for 4 years. So we have a a little bit of a similar perspective, I guess is the way I would put it.
mhm.
We have sat and talked a couple
Yeah.
of times, so
Yep.
it's been interesting.
Oh, yeah. So, then you have to remind them to make it for you. Or not just for you, but for everybody.
Oh, I don't interfere with their menu planning.
Well, hey, you know, it helps out, you know, to plan something else out and instead of.
Give them a different outlook,
Yep,
maybe.
yep, that's it. Hey, let's try this. And then it may not happen today, but who knows in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I did, in amongst everything else, I was a caterer, and I did catering, so I have menus and stuff.
Oh, wow. Would you have, after everything, would you have joined the Navy again? Or a different branch?
I would join the Navy again.
Okay.
I will be honest with you and tell you right now, given the opportunity, I don't know if I would join any service now with the way everything is going.
Okay.
And when I say that, talking about the discipline, there seems to be a lack of training, and they definitely, I mean, if I had to correct somebody, I could correct them. Now, if I try to correct somebody, they're going to say they want a timeout, and I can't say anything to them.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but that's not my Navy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would have a hard time with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So of all the ships you were on, what was your favorite one? I mean, you mentioned the Saratoga.
I would have to say the Kitty Hawk,
Kitty Hawk.
and the only reason for that is we were in San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
and because of as a photographer, running a photo lab at that point, which I didn't know a thing about. Well, after 20 years, everything had changed so much that I got down there in that photo lab and didn't have a clue on the equipment and stuff.
Oh.
I mean, I was still a senior petty officer and I could delegate stuff, but I mean, I just didn't know.
Wow. Was it all black and white photography back then?
Oh no, everything we were doing was color.
Wow.
Color and slides.
Okay.
They would bring tour groups aboard the ship and they would take them different places. We had to take pictures when they first came aboard, and when they left, we gave them a booklet of color photos. And that was part of our task.
Huh.
I didn't have a clue how they were getting all that done, but that's what we were tasked with, and we were getting it done.
Yeah. I only developed color film once in my life when I lived in Florida. And the only thing I remember, it developed really fast, maybe like 2 minutes. But it had to be, the temperature couldn't vary more than like a half a degree.
Right.
Black and white I could vary, you know, like 4, 5, 6 degrees, no problem. But you know, color. But I never printed color on color paper. Also, I like black and white personally.
Well,
I got an enlarger down in the basement with all the trays. So, that's interesting. So the Kitty Hawk out there in San Diego Harbor, I was out there once, had dinner on the Midway.
oh yeah.
Went up into the, oh God, what would it be called? The crow. Anyway, the tower, the crow's nest, where the
The island.
The island. Yeah, jeez. And I just can't imagine those the maneuvering of the jets. Plus, then what everybody's job is with their different colors,
Yep,
you know.
I was a green shirt
Okay.
as a photographer. And when I went up and worked quality control, I was a white shirt. So I had two different shirts that I had to switch back and forth depending on what they wanted me doing.
Yeah.
But you had a variety of
Oh,
colors.
would you,
Purple, green,
yellow,
blue,
yeah,
yellow.
yellow, red.
Yep, we had red.
There's, I know the purples are called grapes.
Yep, that was the fuels.
Yes. Did you ever, when you were taking pictures, were you ever on the fantail when the jets landed? With the, was it the landing safety officer, the LSO?
No, I was
Okay.
never there then.
Okay.
When I first went aboard the Roosevelt
Mhm.
and worked part TAD to the photo lab, temporary duty, from my squadron because they didn't know what to do with me. Well, they were a heavy attack outfit. They'd never had a photographer. So this poor chief says, I don't know what the hell to do with you. I said, well, send me to the photo lab.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So he sent me to the photo lab. I walked out there because he could have sent me mess cooking or anything he wanted. But he sent me to the photo lab, and part of my job down there, I was on where the jets land,
Mhm.
the angle deck. There's a catwalk right there at the end of that, and we had cameras we had to take every landing. And I would end up there every once in a while. And we all rotated it. And it was not a pleasant job by any means. But you went up there and you took all the landings that were coming in case it was an accident.
Mhm.
But you wanted to be quick to duck if you needed to, I'll tell you.
My understanding is on Big John, they could launch the jets pretty damn quick off of there.
Oh yeah,
You know, almost two at a time. Well, two at a time, four.
3 at a time.
Three, oh, one off the.
One off the angle and
Yep,
2 off the bow.
Okay, I forgot about the
Um,
angled one.
So they could launch 3 at a time. They didn't launch them all
No,
exactly the same, but
no.
they moved through very fast, let me put it that way.
Yep, I can imagine during operations, you know, getting them out of the hold up to the flight deck, getting them lined up, attached, and
That, they got people there, and that's all they do is move plastic
Mhm.
pieces around
Yes.
and tell the people exactly where it has to go.
Mhm.
Because everything is to scale, they can put it in there and know it'll fit or not fit.
Yep.
And they run it. It's quite an operation.
Yeah. I was told one time the arresting cables, they could change one in between landings. I mean, there's what, 3 or 4 cables?
There's 4 cables,
And so,
and they can change one in between. They don't normally.
no, but they could, and
But if in an emergency, they could do that.
yeah. Wow. Wow.
But those things break every once in a while, and that's a very dangerous situation because that cable snaps.
Yep. And it's not a thin cable either.
Oh no.
Couple of 1.5, 2-inch diameter. Yep. Of
Steel.
yes. Wow.
And you can imagine something going 120 miles an hour catches it and it breaks. It whips it. Thank God. Anytime it happened when I was up on the flight deck, I was behind the island,
Wow.
so I was safe. A couple people
Oh yeah.
were seriously injured. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. But they say that the flight deck on an aircraft carrier is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I was.
And I agree, having been there.
Yeah, I was watching the more recent Top Gun movie, and they interviewed some Navy pilots, and they said, "Geez, do you own a motorcycle or a Corvette?" You know, and they said, "Why would I want to own one of those?" And they're pointing over at the 35, $40 million aircraft
Yeah.
when I can fly that. So, wow. Gee. So how many, you mentioned you took off and landed on the aircraft carrier. About
Yeah.
how many times?
Oh,
More than you want to remember?
No, probably a half dozen times.
Jeez. Ah,
When I was in the heavy attack outfit. And then probably another 8 or 10 times landing on an aircraft carrier, getting sent out there to do something. Part of my final time in that squadron before I went to TARPS, I was a wing troubleshooter. So if a system was failing on a particular aircraft carrier, and didn't have the qualified people to fix it,
you.
I would get elected, and most of the time I could do it. So it was, it was just part of my job at that point. But I got good at it,
Yeah.
and that's how I ended up with TARPS. One of the captains that was in one of the squadrons that I worked for, when he got project manager on TARPS, and he needed 2 photographers, and he picked me as one of them. So I cut me. It was either good or bad, I don't know.
Either way, you were selected.
I was selected.
Yeah.
That was my shore duty, and my shore duty I was on travel 3 years.
Wow.
So I didn't have much shore duty. Didn't impress my wife, I can tell you that.
Yeah. And then after the Navy, you said networking. That was sort of like right near the beginning, I'll say, of the PCs and everything just ready to explode.
They were all IBM PCs.
Yep.
And I went to school to learn how to work on those and do computer maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to Chicago and went to Zenith, because they made all the monitors at that point. Well, all the ones that the Navy and Army were buying. And I went to school for maintenance on the monitors. So